back to the subject of reaction, because we cannot make headway until this is seen. In our time, the professional costume is neat, the calendar is full, the performance reviews are excellent, and the soul is braced as if for a blow. You wake and the day has not yet spoken, yet already an inner clerk has opened a file, named your case, entered exhibits A through Z, the deadline, the memo, the personality, the rumor, the what if. The coffee is barely poured and the court is in session. All right. Do you see that? We are not yet at the office, and we have rendered a verdict of foreboding upon a day God has not judged. Now hear this. With that quiet place in you, the degree of your faith is shown by your reaction. Anxiety is not merely a feeling. It is a form of consent. It is the inward signature that says, I agree that this appearance has power over me, but judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment, John 7:24. The appearance is never the fact. The report is never the law. Faith is not how many truths you can recite before breakfast. Faith is the immovable refusal to react, the no you say to the inner summons to fear, and the yes you live to the presence that goes before you to make the crooked places straight. You are going to hear something contrary to common sense and common coaching. You do not heal work dread by fixing the job. You heal it by refusing reaction, never entering its case humanly, while doing your work with the same hands, the same tools, the same words perhaps, but from a different country within. Take no thought for the morrow, Matthew 6:34. Does not mean abandon your calendar. It means refuse to let tomorrow claim your consent today. Plan if you must, but do not worship your plan. Prepare if you must, but do not bow to the preparation as a power. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10 is not a line for quiet hours only. It is a working posture. In stillness, you strip the mask from the appearance. In knowing, you decline its subpoena. Then, and only then, you proceed. Do you see that the burden is not the workload alone? It is the inner court that tries the case all day long. Call it the prosecutor named past experience, the witness called worst case scenario, the bailiff named ego who shouts order and hands you fear as if it were law. And you, who have been set as priest and king unto God, sit there reacting, rising and sitting, overruled and sustained by moods, as if there were two powers. There is not. We are on the middle path when we neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. Neither the flattering email nor the sharp one defines your standing. Neither the quarter's wind nor the mist determines your portion. The Lord is the portion of mine inheritance. Psalm 16:5. When you consent to that, appearances lose their teeth. So, begin here. Refuse the subpoena to react. Let the inner clerk close the file. The meeting comes, the email arrives, the deadline approaches. You need not negotiate with dread. You need not build a case for hope or against fear. Stand still enough within to remember that you are not dealing with powers, but with pictures, and that pictures do not rule the child of God. Attend to what is yours to do, answer the note, write the brief, make the call without permitting the picture to draft you into its army. If you will prove this even in small measures today, you will feel the hinge of the door loosen. The job will look the same. The faces will be familiar. The calendar will not blush for you, but the case will not own you. And that, you see, is the beginning of freedom. Not that the sea is gone, but that you no longer react to its roar. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, Exodus 14:13. Then proceed. Now we come to the sentence that ends the inner trial, and if you will let it, it will end it every time. Never enter the case humanly. All right, what do I mean? I mean, never rehearse outcomes, never draft the other man's reply, never build your opening statement for a meeting that is not yet convened, never assign blame and then prepare a defense, never try to manage a future that is not here. That entire activity is called entering the case humanly, and it is the machinery of fear disguised as prudence. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Matthew 6:34. Let the day present itself. Do not present yourself to the day as a defendant before a judge that does not exist. Never enter the case humanly. Never permit yourself to give human advice to yourself first. Do you see that? The counsel you whisper to your own heart. Say this, so they'll think that. Angle it here, so you're safe there. That is human advice, springing from the premise that there are powers arranged against you. There are not. The battle is not yours, but God's. 2 Chronicles 20:15. Your part is not to tinker with the chessboard of personalities. Your part is to withdraw your consent from the hypnotism that says any board, any piece, any clock owns your piece. Never desire to change appearances. Oh, that is hard for the human mind, because it loves a before and after, a trophy, a photo of the sea parted. But God is not a power to change one picture into another. God is not a power at all, because that would imply another power to overcome. There is only one. When you refuse reaction, you are not becoming passive. You are returning to the one. Let me be clear, lest the mind run off to slumber. This is not passivity, not neglect, not irresponsibility. It is not lying down under delay or incompetence. It is the holy refusal to be drafted by fear while you fulfill present duty. Render unto Caesar the spreadsheet, the outline, the phone call, the reply at the proper hour. Render unto God the inner silence, the refusal to take sides in a quarrel of shadows, the non-reaction to pressure's mask. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Isaiah 30:15. Do the work at hand, but do not do the work with a heart bargaining for safety. Let your yea be yea and your nay, nay. Matthew 5:37. Simple, clean, without an inner brief filed for or against anyone. Now here is the middle path, and it is narrow only to the temperament that loves drama. We neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance, especially the costume called pressure. Pressure is an idol that demands worship, and its liturgy is reaction. Bow to it by hurrying inwardly, and you have offered incense. Courted by craving its applause, and you have made a golden calf. Strike at it with anger, and you have confessed a second power. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, Exodus 20:3. Lay pressure at the altar, not with a speech, but with a stillness that declines its authority. One split second of that silence, you see, and the spell breaks. Then act calmly, ordinarily, without negotiating with a phantom. You ask, will I not be unprepared if I do not enter the case? No. You will be free to prepare rightly. To study the facts of today's task is not entering the case. To fasten your hope or fear on tomorrow's outcome is. To draft notes for clarity is not entering the case. To draft a plea for your worth is. You can meet your colleague's email with a clear answer and no inner tremor. You can enter the boardroom without entering the trial. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. John 14:27. That is not a sentiment. It is a method. So take it as marching orders. Never enter the case humanly. When the calendar frowns, never enter. When the rumor swirls, never enter. When applause beckons, never enter. Be still long enough to remember the presence that requires nothing and governs everything. Then do the next rightful thing. You will find that the case loses its courtroom, the prosecutor loses his papers, and the day, which was always God's, proceeds without your fear appended to it. Now, since you have taken those marching orders, never enter the case humanly. Let us look squarely at the place where the case seems to arise, because unless you see it impersonally, you will always think it is your boss, your inbox, your client, your calendar, and you will be drafted by names and faces that are not the culprit. The modern office, with its glass walls and blinking dashboards, is a temple. But most days it is not a temple unto God. It is a temple unto universal belief. Scarcity kneels at the front pew, whispering that there is not enough time, not enough budget, not enough praise to go around. Competition lights the candles and calls itself excellence while it starves brotherhood. Reputation hangs vestments on your shoulders and makes you fear a stain. And time, oh, time sits in the high seat as high priest. Ring the bell of urgency, announcing sacraments called deliverable and deadline, and pronouncing woes for those who do not hurry inwardly as well as outwardly. Do you see that? This has nothing to do with Mr. So-and-so or Miss such-and-such. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Ephesians 6:12. How does this temple work? It presents as urgency and consequence. It says, prove you are responsible, react. If you do not tense, you must not care. If your chest does not tighten, you must be lazy. If your thoughts do not loop all night, you must be unprepared. And then, as a counterfeit righteousness, perfectionism enters with a halo and insists you pay tribute by polishing every sentence until dawn, not for clarity, but for absolution. In that moment, the universal belief has obtained your consent. Anxiety is not evidence of reality. It is the signature that you have agreed there is another power. Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? Matthew 6:27. You cannot and you do not add excellence to your work by adding fear to your heart. Those symptoms you know so well, the knot in the stomach, the hurried breath, the compulsive refresh of the inbox, the fragile mood hinging on a reply. These are not warnings from God. They are bells from that other temple, tolling to summon you to reaction. When you hear them, do not condemn yourself, but do not crown them either. Recognize them as the smoke of an altar you do not serve. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. The renewing begins right there when you say inwardly, this is not my boss. This is not my future. This is a universal belief in scarcity and reputation, seeking my consent. I do not consent. 1 split second of that recognition and the figure loses its mask. I had a letter from a man in San Francisco who wrote, every Monday felt like Judgment Day until I heard you say, this is impersonal. The very next meeting, I saw it. My fear was not of a person. It was of a rumor about time. I said nothing outwardly. I sat still for 1 breath, and then I answered the question that was asked, not the question my fear invented. Now, do you think the personalities suddenly became saints? No. The email cadence did not slow. The targets did not change. But the inner subpoena was torn up. The prince of this world cometh, and hath nothing in me, John 14:30. When it has nothing in you, it has no handle, no hook, no lever. Make it practical. The moment you see the impersonal nature of the pressure, two things happen. First, you stop needing to win against a person. There is no opponent to conquer, only a belief to ignore. Second, you are free to serve principle without heat. You can answer firmly without inner tremor. You can decline a timeline that violates good work, not as a rebellion against a personality, but as allegiance to accuracy and integrity. You can do overtime one evening without selling your soul to the god of reputation, and you can say not this way the next day without needing to bruise anyone. Principle over personalities, you see. Christ is the only identity, yours and theirs. So when the office liturgy begins, pings, 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 do not worship. Let the bell ring and do not bow. Close your eyes for the space of a heartbeat. Never enter the case humanly. Refuse the suggestion that tension is proof of love. Refuse the doctrine that reputation is life. Refuse the altar call of time fear. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, Exodus 20-3. Then proceed to the work before you, ordinary and unhurried. As soon as it is seen to be impersonal, it begins to be powerless, and when it is powerless, you are no longer required to fight a person. You are free to live in God and to work as one who has already rested. All right? Now let us take up the point where so many of us stumble. Even after we have seen the impersonal nature of pressure, we still take sides. We think we are defending truth when we defend a person. We think we are protecting good when we join a camp. And in that very hour, we are drafted back into reaction. Hear this like a plumb line, drop straight through the heart. You are not dealing with a good side and a bad side, not even the side that hires you. You are dealing with principle, and your effectiveness will rise or fall with your fidelity to that alone. No man can serve two masters, Matthew 6:24. If in your secret heart you serve approval or outcome, you will lose your poise. If you serve principle, you will keep your peace and often bring order where debate could not. Take a common case. Manager and employee are at odds. One accuses the other of sandbagging. The other accuses the first of scope creep. The room grows warm, and you feel the pull. Be savior for one, judge of the other. Or, if that fails, join the theater as a victim who sighs, "Here we go again." Do you see what has happened? The minute you consent to those roles, you have confessed that personalities own the field. Refuse, sit still for the split second until you can say inwardly, "I will not take sides. I will take my stand in principle." Then you ask the question that has no heat in it. What is right for the work? What is true to the facts? What serves the integrity of the product and the honest welfare of all? That is not coldness. That is love freed from favoritism. Speaking the truth in love, Ephesians 4:15, has no need to bruise. It simply refuses to flatter or to fear, or take sales and operations. Sales wants the date, operations wants the safety of process. If you identify with either banner, your pulse rises and your tongue sharpens, because you must win for your tribe. But drop the banners and the room changes. Principle says, we will not promise what we cannot deliver. We will not delay what we can deliver with excellence now. In that climate, you can look a sales leader in the eye and say calmly, we cannot vow what has no foundation. And you can look operations in the eye and say, we will strip every ornamental delay that does not serve quality. A soft answer turneth away wrath. Proverbs 15:1. Not because you became a diplomat of compromise, but because you stood in truth without heat, and truth carries its own quiet authority. Client and creative. Oh, You know, that tug. The client says, make it pop, which is to say, make my fear of obscurity disappear by noon. The creative says, trust the craft, which is to say, trust my identity. If you side with either, pressure owns you. A woman in New York wrote, I stopped being the bridge on fire between client and studio the day I heard you say, not even the side that hires you. I went silent for one breath. Then I said, we will tell the truth quickly. Here is what will achieve the outcome. Here is what will not. If you desire the second, that is your right, but it will not be our counsel. 2 days later, the client chose the first path. And if they had not, if the one that engaged you wants to lose, that's their business. Your business is to be faithful to principle, without sarcasm, without fear. Now, how do you hold this stance without becoming hard? By accepting the only identity there is. Christ is the only identity, yours and theirs. There is neither Jew nor Greek, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. Galatians 3:28. When you see that even in a glimmer, the me versus them engine runs out of fuel, you are not exalting one ego over another. You are honoring the Christ in all by honoring truth above preference. You can correct an error and never condemn a person. You can praise a contribution and never crown a personality. You can say yea, and it is yea, nay, and it is nay. Matthew 5:37. And none of it is a bid for reputation. Do not misunderstand. This is not neutrality born of weariness. It is consecration. Stand, therefore, having your loins girt about with truth. Ephesians 6:14. Stand, and let the sides go past like parade floats. Be kind in tone, swift in response, exact in detail, but give no inner oath to outcomes or approval. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. John 7:24. Righteous judgment is simply the recognition that principle is God's way becoming visible, and personalities are costumes that come and go. If you will try this tomorrow, even in one small meeting, you will notice the heat lower a degree. The faces will be the same. The topics will not learn a new language overnight, but you will be different, and the room will know it. You will not be cold. You will be clear. You will not be detached. You will be devoted to truth, to the work, to the Christ in all. And in that devotion, effectiveness rises, because reaction has no altar in you from which to light its candles. Be still until you can forget the sides. Then proceed in principle and let God have its perfect work. Now, let us make this practice measurable in the only way that matters. You have dashboards for revenue, charts for velocity, a calendar, testament of meetings, all right? But your true metric, your spiritual KPI, if you like that word, is this. How quickly do you stop reacting? And how faithfully do you return to stillness? That is the measure of faith, because faith is shown by reaction. The minute the ping strikes, or the face darkens, or the roomer walks through the door dressed as urgency, your clock starts. Do you see that? Not a stopwatch for hustle, but a bell for holiness. How soon do you refuse consent to fear, refuse worship of pressure, refuse the inner court from convening? The kingdom of God cometh not with observation, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:20-21. Your inner return time is the only analytics that counts. Take an internal rule, simple, practical, and let it be absolute with you. The moment fear speaks, you do not answer it with plans, arguments, or self-attack. You pause. No rebuttal, No second draft of the email in your head. No autobiography about your failures. Be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, James 1:19. For one split second, refuse all counsel but the silence. That is the whole law and the prophets of this practice. If fear insists, you do not become louder, you become quieter. If the mind begins to bargain, if I promise this, if I over-prepare that, you let the bargaining pass like birds over a lake that does not take their imprint. Nobody by taking thought can add 1 cubit to stature. Nobody by taking thought can add 1 cubit to poise either. Train the mind with a triad that will serve you in every corridor. Neither fear, love, nor hate the appearance. Do not fear it, no adrenaline tithe, no inward flinch as a sign of responsibility. Do not love it, no adoration of the pressure as if it grants you meaning or rank. Do not hate it, no drama of resistance that crowns it as a rival power. This, you see, is the middle path, where reaction is starved and presence is fed. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, Exodus 20-3. Includes the gods named outcome, urgency, and reputation. Deny them incense. Withdraw your inner worship. And then this is important. Do the next rightful thing without heat. Non-reaction is not inaction. It is action without inner violence. It is the email answered from clarity, not from a plea for safety. It is the meeting attended with attention, not with an inner audition for approval. It is the decision taken in principle, not the decision negotiated with anxiety. Render to Caesar the careful note, the accurate forecast, the punctual attendance. Render to God your silence, your refusal to let fear write the preface to your work. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, John 14:27. The world gives peace by rearranging appearances. The Christ gives peace by removing your consent to them as power. All right, now make it daily, each morning. Set but 2 metrics. 1. How many times did I return to stillness today? 2. How short can I make the distance between the bell of pressure and the breath of God contact? Do not boast when the count is high, and do not scold when it is low. Simply be faithful. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Isaiah 30-15. If you fail at noon, succeed at 12:01. If you fail in the elevator, succeed at your desk. The return is the practice, and the practice is the proof. When you work this way, you will notice something that is at first disorienting and then liberating. Effectiveness rises while drama falls. The face across the table may still scowl. The deadline may still claim to be a sovereign, but they have nothing in you, and so they cannot govern you. The new KPI has done its work. You are not measuring throughput of tasks. You are measuring throughput of trust. And trust moves the day without bruising the soul. Be still, then proceed. Refuse reaction, then act. Let your yea be yea, and your nay, nay. Matthew 5:37. And do it all without an inner trial, for the case has been dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. Now let us take this out of the clouds and put it on your desk. There is a liturgy for the office, a sacrament that takes but a split second and yet changes the nature of the hour. Nobody by taking thought can contact God. Do you see that? Nobody by arranging ideas like chessmen reaches the presence. There must come a moment of silence, not after you clock out, not in a retreat house 10 miles from your calendar, but here, between the ping and your reply, between your inhalation and your speech. Enter into thy closet, Matthew 6:6, is not a command to find the broom cupboard. It is a direction to step behind the curtain of reaction for one breath until you know there is only one. Make it immediate. Your cursor hovers over send. Your tongue warms the sentence. Your hand reaches for the next tab. Stop. Not for a minute. Not for a dissertation of truth. For the split second in which you let the inner motions settle until there is no compulsion to prove, to please, to protect. In that instant, you are not gathering arguments. You are not negotiating with fear. You are not auditioning for approval. You are stepping out of the case. God is not mind. Therefore, mind cannot solve mind. More thinking about the pressure cannot free you from the pressure. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. Zechariah 4-6. The spirit is contacted in silence, the way a lake reveals the sky only when its surface is still. Here is the practice. And let it be sacred to you before you send, before you speak, before you open the next tab. Be still for the fraction of a breath. Withdraw your worship from the God called haste. Say within, without strain and without bargaining, let Christ's will be done. Not my manipulation, not my fear, not my vanity, but thy way now. Then proceed with the next right task. Ordinary and exact, without heat. If you do not know the next right task, choose the smallest faithful action, attach the file, correct the date, answer only the question that was asked, and leave your pulse out of it. Do not wait for fireworks. Do not test the silence for results. This is not a lever to move the boss or a charm to sweeten outcomes. It is the refusal to bow to appearances. I can of mine own self do nothing. John 5:30 is not failure. It is your freedom from the false self that reacts. The split second of silence is the doorway. Walk through and leave the litigants behind. Then when you write, your words are clean of inner pleading. When you speak, your tone carries no bribe. When you choose, you do not choose for reputation. You choose for right. You will say, can I practice this in a heated meeting? Yes, especially there. While others speak, you do not compose your speech. You rest your mind on the inner altar and say nothing within but that one consent, thy will be done. One heartbeat of that, and the compulsion breaks. You may still speak firmly. You may still decline a false deadline. You may still press for accuracy. But you will not be owned by either fear or flattery, and the room will notice, even if it has no name for what it notices. Be not afraid. It is I, John 6:20, is felt before it is understood. Make it a rhythm. Inbox, breath, God. Calendar, breath, God. Conflict, breath, God. If you forget at 9, remember at 9:01. If you send in haste, repent in stillness, and let the next reply be clean. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Isaiah 30-15. One split second of true silence breaks the compulsion to react. That is the whole method. Use it often enough and you will find that the outer day may keep its shape, but the inner jurisdiction has shifted. The case tries to convene, you do not appear. You are in the closet, if only for a breath. And when you come out free to do the work that is yours and to leave to God what was never yours. Be still, then proceed. All right? Now, we put feet under this because contemplation without obedience becomes another negotiation with fear. The old pattern, and you know it by heart, says, if I just prepare more, check more, perfect more, then I can be safe. If I rehearse every sentence, if I run 3 backup plans, If I polish the deck until midnight, then perhaps the gods of outcome will spare me. Do you see that this is not diligence, but bargaining with appearances? Take no thought for your life. Matthew 6:25 was not spoken to make you careless. It was spoken to free you from the religion of anxiety. Anxiety promises safety in exchange for worship. It says, bow to me, offer me your adrenaline, your sleeplessness, your compulsive checking, and I will spare your reputation. Refuse. Do your work. Refuse fear, and let the demonstration mature without your bribe. Here is the stance, and let it be plain. You will not negotiate with anxiety before, during, or after the task. Before the task, you do not enter the case by predicting reactions or composing your defense. During the task, you do not bargain with fear for permission to proceed. After the task, you do not call the seed back out of the ground to audit its progress. First the blade, then the ear. After that, the full corn in the ear. Mark 4:28. Let patience have her perfect work. James 1-4. Divine order has its own pacing, and your compulsive status checks do not accelerate spirit. Practical? All right. Deliver the draft imperfectly, but on time. Not sloppy, not evasive, honest. Send what is ready with a simple line. Here is the draft as of today. Open questions are noted. That is action without pleading. Anxiety will whisper, another pass, or they'll see you, and you will answer with silence. Then send. Ask the direct question you have avoided. Are we moving the date or cutting scope? That is love of truth, not aggression. Anxiety will offer you 20 delicate phrasings, all of them bribes for approval. Decline them and let your yea be yea and your nay, nay. Matthew 5:37. Take the meeting without rehearsing every sentence. Sit down, breathe the split second of God contact, and then speak only as you must. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it, Psalm 81-10, is not license for chatter. It is the promise that words given in stillness will be enough. Another small thing, and it will save you hours of life. Stop rereading the email 5 times to drain it of all humanity. Read it once for clarity, once for kindness. Be still for one breath, then send. That third read is not excellence. It is the liturgy of fear, or this. Make the call now, when it is the next faithful act, rather than carrying it like a hot coal while you invent scripts. When you pick up the phone from quiet, you will speak straighter and listen more. God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1-7. Sound mind is clarity minus compulsion. You ask, will non-reaction make me less competent? No. It will make you more exact. Fear distorts perception, narrows choices, and loads your sentences with a tremor that invites confusion. When you remove fear's tax, you see the fact in front of you and answer only that. Your commas get cleaner because your need to be adored is not shaking your hand. Your estimates become more accurate because you are no longer padding them with superstition. Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. Proverbs 16-3. Establishment is the fruit of consecrated action, not the byproduct of dread. Do not misunderstand. We are not preaching indifference or half work. Render the full measure facts straight, numbers checked, craft respected, but render it without inner negotiation. You will find an odd mercy. Work done without bargaining costs less and accomplishes more. It costs less because you are not paying the surcharge of panic. It accomplishes more because your energy is in the deed, not in the theater around it. And when the outcome comes, as it will in praise, in correction, in silence, you do not let it govern your heart. If they applaud, that is not your life. If they frown, that is not your death. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10, before, during, and after. And you will discover a steady effectiveness that no deadline can purchase and no rumor can cancel. So take this as today's order. Act from stillness, not from threat. Do the work that is yours, plainly, at the hour appointed. Refuse fear's bargains. Do not test the silence for results. Let Christ's will be done in the task, and let the demonstration mature on its own route. You can be effective without bargaining with anxiety. In truth, you can only be effective when you stop. Be still, then proceed. All right? Now suppose you have been faithful to the split second of silence. You have done the work without bargaining, and still an outcome rises like a wave and threatens to break over your little boat. A leadership call looks reckless. A client insists on the weaker path. The budget cuts land where they ought not to land. In that hour, the old religion of anxiety sends a missionary to your door with a tract that says, take ownership of this whole thing or else. Refuse. Your interest is not in controlling results. Your calling is to bring forth spiritual activity, clarity, integrity, peace, and then to let results unfold without your fear. I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. 1 Corinthians 3-6. You see that? You plant what is yours. You water what is yours. The increase is never yours. Here is the translation for the modern office, and it will feel like a sword that frees. If leadership wants to make a costly decision, that's their business. You are not hired to carry fear. You are not paid to be the god of outcomes. You are engaged to contribute principal facts, straight counsel, clean, tone without heat, and to do so from God contact, not from adrenaline. Say what must be said, once, plainly, with love. Note the trade-offs. Point to the truth as you see it. Refuse all drama. Then lay down the inner burden. Take therefore no thought for the morrow. Matthew 6:34. Does not license negligence. It forbids forecasting doom as a form of worship. Responsibility then? Yes, absolute, but bounded by truth. Prepare the horse for the day of battle. Safety is of the Lord, Proverbs 21:31. Prepare your analysis. Prepare your alternatives. Prepare your integrity. Then give up the part that was never yours. Control. Render to Caesar the spreadsheet and the schedule. Render to God your silence and your refusal to hate, fear, or flatter the appearance. If they choose the other road, you do not turn prophet of resentment. If they ask again, you answer again in principle. If they do not ask, you do not chase them with your worry. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Psalm 37:5. And what he brings to pass may not look like your plan on Tuesday, but it will be right on his calendar. Let me uncover the hidden bondage that makes this so hard for our so-called high performers. High-functioning anxiety is often a secret claim to omnipotence. It is the belief, flattered by results and camouflaged as care, that you must foresee, forestall, and fix everything. That is idolatry, and the idol is yourself. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, Exodus 20:3. Includes the little god who paces at midnight rehearsing everyone's lines. A project manager in Chicago wrote, I used to script the whole org in my head. I ran 3 plans at once and called it excellence. The day I heard you say, if they want to lose, that's their business, I hated it, and then I slept. Next week, my counsel was the same, but without tremor. They chose the poorer option. We absorbed a loss. I did not fracture. 2 months later, leadership reversed course. My calm had kept the bridge intact. Do you think the bridge was preserved by her control? No. By her refusal to worship the outcome as God, space open for correction without collapse. Train this detachment the way you train the silence. Step by step, with holy restraint. When an outcome threatens, do 3 things, and only 3. 1, speak the truth once, cleanly, no bribes, no daggers. 2, write the consequences without heat. If we take path A, X occurs. If B, Y occurs. And let your yea be yea, and your nay, Matthew 5:37. 3, release the inner hold. Say within, if they want to lose, that's their business. And mean, my business is fidelity. God's business is increase. Then close your mouth inwardly. Do not attach an I told you so in advance. Do not sit at your desk and monitor the charts every hour as a form of penance. Don't look at your demonstration day by day. Let patience have her perfect work. James 1-4. First the blade, then the ear. After that, the full corn in the ear. Mark 4:28. Let the blade be the clean counsel you have given. The ear will be the unfolding you cannot time. If a correction becomes necessary, it will be asked for more quickly from the one who did not rage. If a loss must be borne, it will bruise less in the one who did not tie identity to winning. Be careful for nothing, Philippians 4-6. Does not make you passive. It makes you pure of the lust to possess results, pure of the fear that shouts, you are life and death to this place. You are not. Christ is the only identity, the only law, the only life. Stand there. Bring forth spiritual activity, clarity, integrity, peace, and let the river carry the boats that are not yours to steer. Be still, then proceed. And if the outcome seems to threaten, remember, your peace is not priced in that stock. Your life is hid with Christ in God. Colossians 3:3. Detach from outcomes, contribute principle, and let results unfold without your fear. All right, now we must speak to the family that sits at your table, though it has no last name on the mailbox. Approval, reputation, indispensability, the vow never to disappoint anyone. This is the household that makes slaves of high performers and martyrs of kind souls, and it speaks in a pious voice. Be available always, be adored everywhere, be essential in every room, and never let a face fall because of you. Hear the Master's hard saying and translate it for this hour. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. Matthew 10:37-38. If you are not willing to leave mother, brother, sister, father, for my sake, if you are not willing to leave the inner family of approval and control, you will remain conscripted by reaction. Do you see that? The leaving I ask is not contempt for people. It is consecration from their imagined ownership of your being. You must walk out quietly and once for all from the house called reputation. where every mirror asks, how am I seen? You must fold a cot in the room called people-pleasing, where you sleep in your shoes lest a text arrive at midnight. You must hand in your badge at the factory of indispensable, where your worth is measured by how exhausted you look. You must rescind your citizenship in the land of never disappoint, where truth goes hungry while your smile keeps the peace. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, Exodus 20-3, includes these household idols. Now, do not enter this case humanly. Do not make new laws of iron about when to answer or how to speak. That is merely control in a new dress. Enter the silence and let the Christ define your family. Christ is the only identity. If that is even slightly so in you, you can be corrected without collapse, delayed without decay, and live through ambiguity without inventing a storm to keep the old household busy. Criticism comes. It does not find a shrine to reputation in you, and so it passes like weather that cannot wet a flame. Delay comes. It does not find a God of hurry in you, and so it cannot blaspheme your worth. Ambiguity comes. It does not find a mind that insists on steering all things, and so it cannot draft you into panic. Your life is hid with Christ in God, Colossians 3-3. Your calendar is not your life. Your ratings are not your life. Your inbox is not your life. Sometimes a separation is very spiritual. Let's have it. Separation from compulsive availability. Close the laptop at the hour you have promised God, not as a tantrum, but as a tithe to stillness. Separation from toxic urgency. Refuse the ritual of replying in fear to prove you care. Reply in order, with the split second of God contact, and let your yea be yea, and your nay, nay. Matthew 5:37. Separation from self-accusation. Stop prosecuting yourself for not being omnipresent. Only idols require ubiquity, and you are not an idol. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus, Romans 8-1. Wear that as your pass at the door. You will say, will they not think me colder? Some will, for a day, because you have ceased to feed their altar with your adrenaline. But love does not grow cold when it leaves idolatry. It grows clean. You will answer fewer pings, and your words will weigh more. You will accept fewer meetings, and your service will strike truer. You will disappoint a false expectation today to honor a true obligation tomorrow. And this is righteousness, not rebellion. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. The addition does not come by appeasement. It comes by identity rightly placed. For some of us, this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. Matthew 17:21. Fast, then, from the little narcotic of being needed. Fast from the sugar of praise for a week. Fast from the reflex that types anytime when you mean tomorrow. Pray, not with many words, but with that one inward consent. Be thou my life, not their faces, not my name. In the hush that follows, you will feel the cords loosen. And when the cords loosen, work becomes service again. People become brethren again. And time returns to its right size. Freedom comes as you leave the old loyalties, approval, and control and rest identity in Christ. Be still, then proceed, and let your going out from that house be the beginning of your dwelling in peace. All right. Some cords loosen quickly, and some are braided so fine they seem to grow back overnight. You know the kind? I mean, the dread that visits at 2 a.m. with a file folder of what-ifs. The panic cycle that starts at the first ping and does its laps even when nothing is wrong. the compulsive checking mail, chart, Slack again and again, as if frequency was salvation. The insomnia that lies there, building strategies in the dark and calls it care. We have practiced the split second of silence. We have acted without bargaining. We have withdrawn worship from outcomes, and yet this kind returns. The Master named it, "This kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting." Matthew 17:21. Now, do you see, he did not mean more words, more heat, more mental wrestling. He meant a deeper work prayer that is not petition and fasting, that is not starvation, but a ceasing from human control. Let me tell you what prayer is not. Prayer is not pleading with a far God to change a near problem. Prayer is not stacking truth statements like sandbags against a flood of fear. Prayer is not diagnosing your psyche for the 17th time before breakfast. Nobody, by taking thought, can contact God. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. Therefore, the reasoning mind cannot build a ladder high enough to reach the infinite. Prayer, as we use the word here, is the quiet consenting to I, God, as the only presence, the only activity, the only law, until the compulsion to manage yourself subsides. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46-10 is the whole of it. And fasting, do not mistake me, is not a pious diet. It is a consecrated abstinence from mental manipulation. Fast from rehearsals. Fast from inner arguments with your boss when you are alone in a car. Fast from the little sermons you preach to yourself about being behind, unworthy, or essential. Fast even from the fever of affirming away appearances, because at a certain depth, even holy words become toys for the anxious mind. This kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting means withdraw for a time set aside from every form of self-governance by thought and rest in God contact without agenda. Make it doable or you will not do it. Set periods, morning and evening, and a third if the day requires, in which you drop every inner tool. Sit or walk quietly and refuse all projects, even spiritual ones. No rehearsals, no diagnoses, no self-improvement. If a sentence must be allowed to stand as your doorway, let it be only this, gently, once, thy will be done. Then be silent. Watch the mind try to help with truth, with plans, with vows. Let it try and let it stop. This is the fasting. If fear rises with pictures, do not paint over them. Set the brush down. If sleepiness comes, let it come without self-accusation. You are withdrawing from adrenaline, not earning a badge. 5 minutes may be too long at first. Then take 2 minutes, many times, but take them in purity. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Isaiah 30-15. Now, you will ask, will it fix the dread tonight? No. Do not test the silence for fireworks. We do not heal by seizing the wheel harder. We heal by nullifying the seeming law that says dread owns the night and panic owns the morning. Much of this is universal belief, impersonal and lawless, belief in pressure as power, in time as tyrant, in reputation as life. It has no law to enforce itself once you stop consenting. Prayer and fasting remove your consent. Little by little, the pattern finds nothing to stick to in you. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall run and not be weary. Isaiah 40-31. Notice, wait upon the Lord, not upon an outcome, not upon a feeling. As this deep work ripens, you will discover a quiet that outlasts circumstances. The project may roar, the chart may dip, the night may throw its old shadows, and there is a floor beneath your feet that is not made of thought. Your watch alarms may still ring, your inbox may still fill, but the old compulsion meets an empty chair. That is the sign. Not ecstasy, not visions, but the slow disappearance of inner bargaining. Let maturity bring to light. Don't look at your demonstration day by day. This kind goes out as you stop feeding it with management and live simply, repeatedly, in God contact. Be still, then proceed. And if in the night it returns, do not enter the case humanly. Return to your fast. Say within once, thy will is my peace and rest. The Lord claimed to be will be shown as nothing, and what remains will be the work given you to do, done without a storm for a crown. Back to the subject of reaction, because the next temptation is very subtle, to watch the clock on your own peace. Did it work yet? Am I cured yet? That, my friends, is entering the case humanly again, only now you are wearing spiritual clothing. You have stepped out of the courtroom through silence, and then you slip back in as the stenographer, tallying your size. Don't. Let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. James 1-4. Patience is not delay. Patience is the refusal to pry open the bud. Peace ripens. It is not manufactured. First the blade, then the ear. After that, the full corn in the ear. Mark 4:28. You don't sweeten fruit by tugging on it, and you will not quicken peace by counting it. Let maturity bring to light. Let God have its perfect work. Do not look at your demonstration day by day. The husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it. James 5-7. You see? He waters, he tends, he does not whisper into the soil at sundown, am I an orchard yet? So with you. You practice the split second of silence. You render the work without bargaining. You refuse outcome idolatry. Then you stop taking your spiritual pulse every hour as proof that pulse checking is fear in a cassock. Now, let me normalize the calendar of this. Saul of Tarsus met a light that blinded him, and still there were years of inner reconstitution before the outer mission marched. You don't think for a minute he understood it all that day? No. A desert does its work that classrooms cannot do. Your modern office, with its pings and pressures, becomes that desert, a training ground where non-reaction is learned muscle by muscle. Do not despise the pace. Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Galatians 6-9. In due season, not your watch, not your boss's mood, spirit's own hour. What then do you look for, if not instant relief? Look for shorter reaction time. Yesterday, the spike of dread held you for 20 minutes. Today, it loosens in 2. That is a blade through the soil. Look for a quicker return to silence. The thread snaps, and you find it again with one breath. That is the ear forming. Look for less personalizing. The same criticism arrives, and you sense, however faintly, this has nothing to do with me. This is a universal belief, fishing for consent. You do not bite. That is the kernel filling out. Look for steadier service. You answer the point. and leave the flattery. You correct the number without rehearsing a speech to win back admiration. The day is ordinary and clean. That is peace maturing, not parading. Measure your day, if you must measure, by what you refuse to do. You refuse to hate the appearance. You refuse to placate fear with overwork. You refuse to enter the case with mental lawyering. That is faith counted in non-reactions. When you forget and fall into the old heat, you do not grade yourself. You return immediately to the split second of God contact and proceed. They shall not be ashamed that wait for me. Isaiah 49-23. Shame is for performers when the applause is thin. You are not a performer before God. You are a branch learning again the life of the vine. All right, so each evening, close the books without an audit of holiness. Give thanks quietly for one moment where the compulsion broke, and forget it. Each morning, begin again with stillness, without negotiation. Do your work. Refuse fear. Do not test the silence for results. Let God have its perfect work. In a month, you will not be able to say which day the peace arrived. You will only notice that Monday has stopped making threats and that your soul is not for sale at 9 o'clock. That is how fruit tastes when it is ripe, sweet without announcement. Be still, then proceed. All right, let's gather the ladder into one cord you can hold when the alarm rings. We began by seeing that work dread is not a job problem, but a reaction problem. Appearances, asking for consent. Then we learned to refuse sides and serve principle, not personalities. Then non-reaction became our measure. Then the split second of silence, God contact without words, opened the door. From there, action without bargaining. From there, detachment from outcomes. From there, patience with divine timing while peace matures without a clock. Do you see? Recognize universal belief. Refuse sides. Practice non-reaction. Enter the silence. Act without fear. Detach from results. Allow maturity. It is one movement, not 7 tricks. Now Monday, before you open messages, before you read a single subject line, sit 2 minutes, if that is what you have. 1 minute, if that is all. Sit, feet on the floor, hands easy, and let the inner court dissolve the prosecuting attorney who rehearses the judge, who grades the jury of imagined faces. Lay them down. No projects in prayer. No petitions. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46-10. Wait for the click, not fireworks, not ecstasy, but that small ascent, a weight settling an inch lower in the chest, the breath that is not yours. If it does not come at once, don't manufacture it. Do you hear? You are not the engineer of peace. You are the witness. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Isaiah 30-15. When the click comes, or when the minute is honestly done, take your governing sentence for the day. Never enter the case humanly. Start there and stay there. Open the inbox from that sentence. Read the first message as an appearance without authority. Answer the point, not the drama. Pick the next faithful act and do it. No trumpets, no trembling. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Psalm 119-105. A lamp to the next step, not a searchlight to noon. If you notice the old urge to bargain with anxiety, one more edit, one more scroll, one more apology to prove you care, stop, split second, God contact, and proceed. That is all. Through the day, Measure your life by refusals. Refuse to take sides. Serve principle. Refuse to condemn. Render the fact. Refuse to flatter fear with extra theater. Do the work straight. Refuse to worship outcomes. Give the counsel clean and release. If heat rises, do not enter the case humanly by adding your story to the story. Close your mouth inwardly. One breath. Peace. Be still. Mark 4:39. Then the next indicated task. You will still have deadlines. You will still return calls. You will still correct numbers and carry responsibilities. But you need not be owned by pressure, because you will not be its priest. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Exodus 14:13. Does not mean stand idle. It means stand unowned. Then move as sent. Prepare the horse. Safety is of the Lord. Do the labor. The increase is of God. If praise comes, let it pass through you. If blame comes, let it pass by you. If silence comes, let it sit without interpreting it as verdict. Your life is hid with Christ in God. That is the only location that matters on a Monday. I was told once in the night, not with words, but with knowing, in thy silence I shall come to you. Make that your compact, not in striving, not in your brilliant case-making, in silence. Begin there each morning, return there at noon, end there in the evening. If you forget, begin again, wherever you are, even at a stoplight, even between meetings. One breath of honest relinquishment. Never enter the case humanly. Be still, then proceed. And as you proceed, the day will discover it cannot purchase your soul. And you will discover that effectiveness was never an adrenaline gift, but a grace given to those who will not bow to appearances. My presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. Exodus 33-14. Rest, then work. Work, then rest. Be still, then proceed.